Hey guys, welcome to our L19 propaganda terms. Today we are going to be guiding question is to understand the characteristics of propaganda and why they're important, and talk about how they clarify and simplify test questions on the Keystone exam. Today I want to look at analyzing propaganda and text organizational structures, and we're going to have some key learning for definitions of propaganda terms that are usually self explanatory. They mean what they sound like they mean. And our key learning is that keywords in the passage will help you to identify text structures. And the answer is often the option that best summarizes or supports the main idea of a passage. The terms that we're going to be going through today are name calling, bandwagon, red herring, emotional appeal, testimonial, repetition, sweeping generalization, stereotyping, circular arguments, and appeal to numbers, facts, or statistics. Our first one is name calling. This is an attack on a person instead of an issue. So let's throw out this lesson, use the idea of buying a car for every one of these different instances. So if we're name calling, we can say only cheap people would refuse to buy a very useful car for their child. So we are name calling. We're calling someone who's not buying a car cheap. So we're trying to persuade people that you are going to be perceived as cheap unless you buy your child a car. We started to talk about bandwagon yesterday, and this is to try to persuade the reader to think or buy something because it's popular or because everyone is doing it. So if we said, my mom and dad, please buy me a new car. All of my friends' parents are buying them. You should buy me one too. That is hopping on the bandwagon. Everybody in my grade, everybody in my high school, all my friends have one. You're the only parents that are not getting me one. So it's that bandwagon. Let's do what everyone else is doing. We have red herring, and this is an attempt to distract the reader with details that are not relevant to the argument. So we won't get you a car, but we always make you special lunches. So if you had asked a parent or guardian to get you a car, they're going to kind of deflect to distract you and talk about all of the other wonderful things that they do for you. They make you a PB&J with a little smiley face in it. They do other great things, and they'll distract you from what's actually at hand. Then we have an emotional appeal. This is one of the most powerful uses of propaganda. This is when you try to persuade the reader by using words that appeal to the reader's emotions instead of to logic or reason. If I don't get a car, I'll have to take public transportation. Sometimes it's running late. Then I might be forced to run to school and I'll have no energy to learn. So there's an emotional appeal there. You'll feel bad because I'll be late for school or I'll have to run. I'll be so tired. And school is the most important thing, right? So we want to pull at those heartstrings if we want that car. Then we have testimonial. This is one of the most prominent. We see this in commercials, on the radio, on the TV, in TikTok ads, on Instagram. This is an attempt to persuade the reader by using a famous person to endorse a product or idea. For instance, this is called the celebrity endorsement. So if we're using this car example, when I must get to a different city on a day on tour, I only drive Mercedes smart cars. They're electric and the most reliable when I'm running onto stage for soundtrack. So that's from The Weekend. So if he is telling us that that is the only car he uses and that's his endorsement, that's a celebrity testimonial. He is testimony. His testimony is that that is the best car and he wants you to know it. Then we have repetition. We are very familiar with repetition when we think of any type of jingle or any type of catchphrase like ba da ba ba ba. Everybody knows that's McDonald's, right? So repetition is the attempt to persuade the reader by repeating a message over and over and over again. So if we're talking about our cars, built Ford tough. That is played in every commercial, numerous times throughout the commercial and in every ad, so that you can recognize that Ford tough is used to explain those cars. We have sweeping generalization, which we also know as stereotyping. To stereotype is to make an oversimplified statement about a certain group based on little limited information, or maybe just your bias or what you think. So a sweeping generalization might say Ford trucks, the only truck guys want to pull up to the football game in. Well, that's a sweeping generalization. That's a stereotype. There are more people than guys just want a truck. Also, there might be girls who want them. There's probably guys who don't like trucks. So you're saying that that's the only truck that guys will want to drive if they go to a football game. And also, there might be guys that don't like football. These are stereotypes based on very limited information. Then we have a circular argument. This is stating the conclusion as part of the proof of an argument. So I have my license, so shouldn't I be able to drive a Ford? So that argument would say that you should buy me a car I can drive. I have my license. So it starts at the end of the argument at the beginning. So just because a teenager has their license doesn't necessarily mean that they are afforded to drive a car or to get a car. And that's the conclusion of it, is that they want that, but they have the ability to drive. So kind of turns the statement into the argument, into a circle. Like you circle back to something that isn't really the reason why you should get the car. It's just kind of something that happens to have to do with what you're talking about. Which leads us to our last one, which is the appeal to numbers, facts, or statistics. This is the attempt to persuade the reader by showing how many people think something is true. When surveyed, 4 out of 5 mechanics agreed that teens have more control driving Ford wheels than the competitor. So that is persuading us by showing that many people, especially people that are in the line of work of working with cars, would agree with. That's when you'll see like commercials for toothpaste that'll say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this toothpaste. So we have 2 test tricks to show you. So there's are basically 2 types of propaganda questions on the Keystone exam. These questions ask you to identify the persuasive technique used in the passage. The type of question could look like the following. Which persuasive technique does the author use by including a statement by a celebrity? Is that bandwagon, stereotype, appeal to statistics, or testimonial? This type of question should look very familiar to you since we just talked about them. You don't have the passage in front of you, but we can probably guess the answer because the answer is the definition of the propaganda term. The answer would be D because a testimonial is used as an endorsement by a famous person. So we don't have to even read the passage, but of course you will. The second question will ask you to read a sentence from the passage and determine why the propaganda technique is effective. Ultimately, these are main idea questions. You simply need to identify the answer choice that best summarizes the statement provided. This type of question looks like the following. According to a recent study by the editors of City Life, 80% of city dwellers agree that riding a bike to work is the most effective way to navigate the busy city streets. Why is the propaganda technique used in the sentence effective? A, it convinces the reader that driving to work is fast and efficient. B, it persuades the reader that public transportation is an alternative to driving. C, it convinces the reader that moving out of a city and into suburbs is healthier. Or D, it persuades the reader that riding a bike is the best way to travel in the city. The correct answer is D because it summarizes the statement. So remember, when in doubt, always go back to main idea, something that's going to summarize the main idea or the statement provided. And you guys will be completing your lesson 19 activity today to check in to make sure that you understand your terms. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you soon.